Going to be doing a quick mod project on my computer here. It's nothing that major, but it's just to help it cool a bit better. This is my home theatre PC down here, by the way, which I use to run my TV pretty much. And here's the TV. And by the way, this is a Pioneer Kuro 508 XD in the video at the minute. I'm upgrading soon to a LX 5090, but that'll be in another video. So anyway, I'll show you the issue now. I'm loading up SpeedFan here. So as you saw, I've actually literally just got back from college and turned this computer on. And it's been on for about half an hour just on the desktop here. But I've just loaded up SpeedFan. I'm just on the desktop. I'm going to zoom in at the temperatures here. Now you notice GPU 58 degrees already, you know, just from sitting at the desktop. You know, and I'm not doing anything, you know, I'm not, you know, watching anything or anything. I've literally just turned this on and, you know, it's at 58 degrees already. Now the main issue, what I'm going to be doing here today is I'm going to be adding a fan on my graphics card in this computer to help it cool a bit better, especially now it's getting summertime. You know, I don't feel comfortable letting the graphics card get that hot. And it's not like it's a high-end graphics card either, it's a NVIDIA GT210 by Zotac. And it's passively cooled, so it doesn't have a fan on it to you know, move air past the heatsink. So the heatsink can't dissipate heat that well. So it gets pretty hot, and I was watching a YouTube video last night and I think it got up to 80 degrees or so, and you know, that's just way too hot, and I'll explain why I don't feel comfortable letting this thing get that hot. So what I'm going to be doing is just adding a little fan here. This is a brand new 60mm fan. It's a generic fan, I know, it's not branded. It's a sleeve bearing type as well, but I'm only going to be running this off 5 volts because I don't want this thing being really loud in this computer, because this computer is pretty much silent. The sustaining buzz from this TV is actually a lot louder than the computer here, so you know, I don't want to be running this thing at full voltage because it would just be too noisy. So I'm only going to be running this at 5 volts, but I've tested this at 5 volts and it's quiet and it moves a decent amount of air, so it should be okay. But I just want to see how much of a difference running this little fan would be on the graphics card. I'll mod it onto the heatsink. I just want to see how much of a difference it can make just running a little fan, just to help this cool a little bit better. Because this graphics card has a BGA mounted graphics IC, and if you know anything about BGA solder, you'll know that it likes to crack over time if it gets too hot, or if you expose it to high enough temperatures, the board will actually expand a lot more than it would at a cooler temperature, and that can cause the solder joints to crack. If you didn't know, the flammability rating of most PCBs is 94 degrees, and of course this getting to 80 degrees, that's almost, you know, the rating of the PCB for the temperature. I think it's actually set to shut off if this graphics card gets to I think 85 degrees, so I'm going to want to improve the cooling on it just so it lasts and doesn't fail on me a year down the line. But I'm just going to watch a YouTube video here, and you can see, I think that's loaded up from last night. Yeah, it was. I'm just going to play this to the end here, and you can see how hot it gets. So I'll play this video to the end that I was watching last night, and you can see how much the temperature will change on this little graphics card. It's gone down to 53 at the minute, but I mean, if I just do something, you know, just like this, just see if it gets any hotter, because whenever you do anything on the display, you know, the graphics card is being used, you know, it's having to send information to the, you know, the display that you're using to display the image. So, well, I'm not going to go into all that. I'll just do something like this, you know. I dare say that will get it going a bit more. It's gone up to 57 now, so yeah. Anyway, I'll just watch this video and I'll show you how hot this thing gets. It's at about 63 degrees at the minute. It's pretty warm. And you know, yesterday when I was running it, it was open. I had this thing on for about 10 hours or so, and it's not really far off that temperature, and it is pretty cold in this room at the minute, so I think it is best that I add this fan just to help it cool a bit better. So I'm going to be switching this computer off and getting out this rack here, and we're going to be modding this fan on with some super glue because I haven't got any screws that would fit it, and it might actually be a little big. I did actually try and retro mod a fan onto this graphics card ages ago. Actually, it was before I even got this case here. It was with it was with an older case that I had, a CIT one. It was like that thick, well, sorry, that tall. It was a slimline one. And I did actually retro mod a 60mm fan on there before, and that did work out quite well. So if you remember the idle temperatures, about 59 degrees sitting on the desktop, you know, after first switch on, and we'll do the same with the fan, and then we'll do, you know, we'll monitor the temperatures after watching a YouTube video. Now it might have actually went down by a fair bit, because I did close the video. I didn't actually do a temperature check whilst I was watching the video. I should have done that actually, but you know, it still gets pretty hot. So we're going to get this computer out and have a look at this graphics card here. Here's just a look at this computer here. It's a Cooler Master case. It's one of these ones where if you have it like laying flat like this, you know, or if you have it like or stood up vertically, you can change the logo so it doesn't look odd. It's actually a decent case. It's a good build quality, and you know, there's plenty of options for cooling. You know, there's a 120mm, a 92mm, or 80mm fan size option, and I'm just putting my hand over here. I can feel the heat coming off this graphics card. You know, we've got two 80mm in the back. You've got a 120, a 92, or an 80mm on the side here, and it does actually come with a 120 mounted there from stock, and it can support a full ATX board as well. So pretty decent amount of options for this case here. I'm just taking off my Wi-Fi antennas here because these get broke easily, so just put those somewhere safe. And it's clean at the minute at the back. Whoops. Because I only had this out not long ago to install another Wi-Fi card there, so and I've just loosened up these thumb screws as well because they were on there pretty tight. Just take that off here. Side panel's pretty good, solid metal. Here's just a look inside. So the power supply's mounted at the front. And it's cooling options. It takes air in from the bottom there and blows it out these vents in the front. Yeah, it works okay, I guess. Power supply hasn't blew up at least. And it's a Corsair CX430, by the way. I was going to get a modular supply for this case here. It seems to get pretty crammed up with wires, as you can see. Let's just look at the CPU cooler. I installed this a few months back. So Arctic Cooling Pro one. Be Quiet 120mm. I think it's a... oh, what? I can't remember I think it's a black wing fan or something that they call this. Got a 120 and 282s there. These are real good fans. They're quiet and they actually move a good amount of air for how quiet they are, if you know what I mean. And good old Asus motherboard, M5A78L. Had this for a while actually. I think I brought this in 2012, I think. So this board is getting a good few years old here. And here's the graphics card, Zotac GT210. And here's why it's overheating pretty much. It's only got a real small heatsink on it and no fan. So that's why it's getting pretty hot. And you can actually see there's some like gashes in the metal on the heatsink there. That's where I installed a fan on this before, but this time I'm going to actually super glue this fan on. Because I've actually found that the vibrations given off a fan when you super glue it onto aluminium is a lot less than, you know, mounting it with screws like that. So I'm going to get this out of here and we'll start modding it. Here's just a look at this Zotac GT210. Now, a lot of people seem to make up a load of bullshit about the graphics cards, about, you know, the different OEMs of them. You know, how they're Nvidia but they're branded Zotac and stuff. Well, what Zotac do is they design the PCB here, and they design the VRM section and the, you know, the driver section and the memory section. And what they do is they then source a graphics processing chip from Nvidia, because, you know, Zotac themselves, for example, they don't actually make graphics processing ICs, and they basically solder on a Nvidia chip, and they basically built the PCB to drive that chip. But a lot of people seem to make up a load of crap I've seen on YouTube videos, and it really annoys me. But that's basically what they do. And in fact, Zotac probably don't even make this PCB, they probably just get it off a Chinese one. And it does actually say made in China here. But Zotac G210, 1GB, 64GB. DDR3. It's got a VGA, sorry. I have a cold at the minute. HDMI and DVI, I think. DVI-D or something, I don't know. So it's not that bad, and this can go to small form factor, which means that you can actually take the VGA port off. It just plugs into the board here, and you can put a smaller bracket on there to fit in smaller cases, pretty much. And interestingly enough, this actually has a fan port here, but I noticed that there isn't. Well, I actually just tested this with my meter. There isn't actually a circuit set up for this fan port, so there's space for another chip there. I think that's for the driver. I think it's just like a driver transistor for the fan circuit, because I'm guessing that this doesn't, you know, drive the fan at full speed if it does have the fan circuitry soldered on. You know, there's some spots with some little ceramic caps there for a fan circuit. So, but they haven't soldered it on, obviously, because this board doesn't need a fan according to them, so they just have a little heatsink here. The graphics chip. So pretty much this is how it's going to go. I'm going to have the wire going off to the side there. I'm going to have the fan blowing down onto the heatsink. I'm not going to have the fan sucking air off of it, because that causes a lot of turbulence noise, even at a low speed. So it's just literally going to be, you know, what I'll do is I'll put a dab of super glue in the middle here, stick the fan on. I'll stick it right over the centre, not off to the side like that, because the graphics chip is right in the centre here, and of course it disperses heat to the fins. I'll just have it situated somewhere like there. you know, it doesn't matter if I put the fan over the middle bit here, because, you know, the motor's there, and of course airflow doesn't go through that. You know, you can say, like, you can ask, you know, why not just put a bigger heatsink on? Well, I could, but, you know, that would mean modding stuff, and there isn't actually an extra heatsink that you can add to a, you know, board this small, pretty much. A lot of the, you know, extra heatsinks you can buy, like the Arctic cooling ones, they're for like bigger cards. And, you know, adding a fan to this will mean that this heatsink won't get as hot, so that means it can dissipate more heat from the chip. Because pretty much what happens is, if the heatsink gets to the same temperature as the chip, you know, when they're operating, you know, it can't really disperse heat that well, and if you haven't got, you know, active air movement across the heatsink, you know, it can't really cool that good. So hopefully adding a fan to it will cure my little problem there. Just help this chip cool a bit better. So I'm going to crack out the Poundland super glue and get this fan on. So I was just checking this out, and the motor of the fan is pretty much flush with the top part of the heatsink here. So what I'll do is add a dab of glue in the centre of the heatsink. I'll place the fan on and just hold it in place, and then I'll add some dabs of glue to the sides here, you know, just to help this thing be secure on here. I mean, even if it does fall off, I'll know straight away, because it'll just be chopping against these wires here. Before anyone goes, oh, you're putting a graphics card right in front of wires, you know, it'll chop up all the, or the fan will chop up all the wires and you'll short out. This isn't, you know, powerful enough to even do any damage to these wires, even at full speed, so don't cry about that. That's pretty much what I'm going to do, so I'm going to get this mounted on here now. Alright, so the fan is secure on here. Got it super glued on the side there. All four corners I have super glued. And on the side there. And on the motor as well. And I have some on the like the motor supports. And this is wired to 5 volts at the minute, so test this. And it doesn't really sound that noisy. Now this fan starts off slower and it slowly speeds up. These sleeve bearing ones normally do. And at the minute I can't feel any airflow through this, but when this, well, I can feel a little bit. But when it does speed up a little bit more, I can feel more airflow coming out of here. But it's not that noisy, to be honest, and it should do the job. And I mean, when this is all installed, I'll actually turn this off in a second, just install it, install the card back into the computer, and doesn't even really sound that noisy, so pretty much the same as the power supply noise, really, maybe a little less. Sounds a bit vibraty because I'm of course resting it on that metal there, but I'm just going to turn this off and then screw this card in. Alright, so I just got it screwed down, so let's just do another noise test with it in the chassis. Yeah, it's maybe a little noisy, but you know. Oh. Fan revving going on there for the CPU fan for some reason, but I'd say with the top cover on and that being down in that rack there, probably won't be that bad. Yeah, I can't really hear that at all now, so, well, I can slightly, but you know, it's pretty much on par with the power supply. If I wanted to make this computer dead silent so I didn't hear it at all, what I would do is swap that for a silent fan, so like an Arctic cooling one, because I know they're pretty good noise wise, you know, they're really quiet. I've swapped the power supply fan for probably a Be Quiet one as well. And the hard drive I'd swap to an SSD because they're also silent. But where this thing's situated, I don't really need to do that anyway. So just a quick look at the mod. So we've got a little fan on there, and I can feel this card is also. I can feel hot air pretty much coming off this heatsink already. So this fan must be working. So what I'm going to do is switch this all off again. And then get it back down there and get the TV on, and we're going to test this card. So I'll do this now. Alright, so I've literally just turned it on, and waiting for everything to load up. Hopefully this does it pretty quick. I'm not waiting for Windows 10 to get itself together. Oops. Oh my days. Right, let's go documents. About 5 documents opened for some reason, because Windows 10 is crap and just does stupid glitches like this. Yes, minimize you. Okay, so on the desktop, and I have only just turned it on, so I'm going to leave it for a minute. Just wait for everything to get up to temperature. So slow. One of my biggest regrets about this computer was upgrading to Windows 10, because it's just so crappy and slow. Pretty much I used to have Windows 7 on this, and yeah, ever since upgrading I've regretted it. I'm going to go back to Windows 7 when I find my disk. At the minute, 36 degrees. That literally is after startup. However, I think pretty much after startup, originally it was about 48 by now. So I'm pretty sure that's already an improvement, and that's not climbing, is it? Gone down a degree. Jeez. Let's get Microsoft Edge open here. And also, don't ask why I'm using Microsoft Edge. I just literally haven't downloaded another browser. Microsoft Edge is pretty crap. It crashes quite a few times like this. And if you force close it as well, it won't ever open back up, pretty much. So it's on a grey screen right now. If I was to close this off, it would say not responding. Then if I was to close it off in Task Manager and then try to reopen it, it'll just be stuck on the E logo forever. Oh days. This computer isn't that slow, to be fair, but with Windows 10 it is. So what I want to do is just keep monitoring the temperature here. 36 degrees. Man, I can't hear this fan at all that I've got on here, so seems to be alright. So what I'm going to do is just watch a few videos and stuff. In fact, I'll show you the time, and this is just the time. 7:42 at the minute. I'm just going to run this computer for a few hours, and we'll see what it gets to, but at the minute it seems to have worked. We're only at 37, and by now it would have been a lot hotter. It would have had that little flame logo by it by now, and it actually does go down by degrees, so it's pretty good. My CPU, which is an AMD Sempron 145, is throttling out at max though. Even though this CPU does throttle out at max a lot, it doesn't seem to really slow down anything though, really. The CPU only stays at a lowish temperature as well. So I'm just going to watch some videos for a bit and we'll see what happens. Been running this for a bit, and as you see, it's at a very cool temperature of 40 degrees. So what I'm going to do is load up a graphics card stress test utility called Furmark. There it is. And I'm going to run the Furmark stress test on this. I think I already have it installed. There we go. So Windows 10 has been an absolute pain in the ass. Right, so 40 degrees at the minute. I'm just going to put this under a GPU stress test. Oh. Camera decides to blur. It's laggy as hell, but if I was to do this before this thing would go above 70. It's gone up to 43 at the minute. I'm just going to run this for a little bit and we'll see what it goes to. So we're running Furmark for about 7 minutes. We're at 47 degrees. And I can tell you it's definitely running a lot cooler than it would without that fan on there, obviously. For some reason Furmark always seems to close speed fan. Reopen that. Come on here. Speed fan takes its time to load. It's probably all cooled off by now, but I think that's a definite success. It's at least 20 degrees cooler than it would have been, you know, just sitting on the desktop here. And you know, when I've been using this for hours on end, it's at least 40 degrees cooler. So it's definitely going to help the reliability of that card in this computer here. So I guess that's it for this. Thanks for watching.